This conference will now be recorded.
Great. So, what is the chapter that we are going to discuss today? Any idea? We've already discussed what we are actually going to start, right? Yes. So you all can see some colorful light and a very bright picture that is there in the background. So we will be discussing, something related to light. And yes, light is a very important chapter when physics is concerned. Before moving on to the chapter, I want everyone to hear me out. You are able to see the screen. You don't have any problem with the audio. You don't hear any resound kind of thing, right? Everything is perfect. You can hear a bit of resound. Okay, fine. How about now? No, still. Yeah, I think now it is fine, right? Is it fine? Great. Okay, let's start something related to light. We'll not rush, we'll not study everything all together in the same day. We'll go like a kid, we'll try understanding the basics, we'll go into the medium level, we'll try understanding the entire light chapter, and we'll try doing some word problems, and then we'll focus on numericals, and the application part, we'll see in that kind of level. So as we've already discussed, so this session would be in a 5-part session. So this would be the first part. So if you do not understand anything, do not hesitate. Ask me. I'll always be ready to give you the answer. So today's topic is light. Light is very important. Few of you have it in your ninth standard. Few of you don't have. No problem at all. We are anyway covering from the basic itself. And trust me guys, this is a very important chapter because this is interrelated to your intermediate. So you have optics there in the intermediate level, and that is completely depending upon the ninth and 10th light chapters whatever you have. So when a student goes into intermediate level, one definitely expects him to be knowing certain concepts such as reflection and refraction. So all of those things we'll be studying in today's class. We'll cover a kind of brief, or a kind of basic level in today's class. So let's start. Let's not waste time. Yes. So light or visible light is an electromagnetic radiation within the portion of the electromagnetic spectrum that can be perceived by the human eye. Now, we all know that we are able to see things, or we are able to perceive things as they are, only because of this concept called as light. Now, we have a special sense organ in our body, that is human eye, which is actually receiving signals in the form of light particles, and then converting them into the sensory information, then sending back into the CNS, getting the response accordingly. The CNS sends back the information to the motor nerves. Motor nerves function as a response, right? So this is what we have already studied in the nervous system chapter. So if you all remember, right? So light is basically one of the radiation which we've already studied in spectrum topic. So we have seen wide range of broad spectrum, and in which we have already uh, you know we've also we've also discussed something related to visible light and all, right? Yes. So now let us understand what is light specifically in physics point of view. So visible light is usually defined as having wavelengths in the range of 400 to 700 nanometer. So when we have studied spectrum topic, we have discussed something related to wavelength, frequency, and all. If you all would have remembered, so we have discussed something like frequency, and then we have studied about the lambda. Lambda is nothing but the the wavelength. So what is wavelength? Wavelength is nothing but the successive distance between two crests or troughs. Now let's say you are having a wave. Okay, so basically let's take this as a wave, and these are what? These are crests and these are troughs, right? Now the successive distance between these two crests or these two troughs is nothing but wavelength. Now let's talk about frequency. Frequency is all nothing but the number of waves that are being observed in a second, or the number of waves in a given period of time will give you frequency. So that is the reason why we measure wavelength in terms of centimeters, nanometers. It's a distance value. It's the distance that we are measuring. So when we talk about frequency, we measure it in terms of hertz, right? Yes. So this already we have covered in electromagnetism topic. We have also seen this in electromagnetic spectrum. We have also seen this in wide variety topics. Whenever we discuss something related to waves, wave nature, or the particulate nature, we have studied about wavelengths, we have studied about frequencies. So here, light being electromagnetic radiation, it also falls in the same set of properties having wavelength and frequency. All right. Yes. So let us understand more about light. So if we say light, what are the general properties of light? What exactly is the particular frame cut that is given to a particular property? So we all know that light travels faster. It really travels faster at 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second. So this is the speed of light, right? So it's like we have so much of distance from the earth towards the sun, but again every day in the morning you get the sunrise. The sun rays travel pretty much faster. It's like 3 to 10 power 8 meter per second. It is not negative value, it is a positive value. So if you can put up those many 8 zeros after 3, it is that fast it travels per second. The value is that huge, right? So light really travels faster, right? So that's the reason why we generally call if a person, or if you do something really quick, we use this phrase called as light speed, right? So yeah, then we all know that light basically travels in straight lines. It travels in straight lines, right? So have you ever seen light traveling in a zigzag manner? No, right? It has a straight path. Yes, it travels in a straight line, but you can ask me that it is not always going straight. There is some bending, there is some there's some deviation in the path. Yes, that is definitely there, but if you observe the particulate sequence, that is definitely in a straight pattern. So that's the reason why light travels in straight lines. Also, light has dual nature. It has waveform. It also has particulate form. So, what is dual nature and all, we'll again study. So here, light has dual nature. So what is dual nature? Because light can exhibit wave form as well as particulate form. Hence, it has dual nature. It has varied intensity. So I've already told you this. Naturally, right? If you can you observe lots of intensities, and there is a variation in the intensity of light. So because light is again a form of energy. So when there is huge light, then when there is so much of light, what happens? You feel so much of heat. You feel so much warmer, right? Because that is nothing but energy, right? So naturally, when there is less light, you will not feel so much warm, and you'll not actually see that so much of heat energy that is present, right? That is nothing but the intensity. Now how this intensity is coming into picture, it is directly proportional to the number of particles. So if the number of particles are high in number, then naturally the intensity is also higher in rate. All right. Yes. Yes, frequency, is again, depending. I mean, frequency is one of the major factor here. The intensity completely depends upon the frequency, right? So we have already studied about, the multicolored, the multicolored picture we've already seen in the form of VIBGYOR when we have studied electromagnetic spectrum. So we have discussed about the, the nature of light when it is passed from a prism. It undergoes what? It undergoes what? It undergoes scattering, right? It undergoes, it forms into white light. It gives you lots of colors. VIBGYOR: violet, indigo, blue, green, then yellow, orange, and red, right? Yeah, so these are the colors of, rainbow naturally. So if you mix up all these colors in equal proportions, you will ultimately get visible light, which is nothing but the white color light that we are talking about, right? Yes. So hence, light is multicolored. Then we also have light interacting with matter. We have seen this as well. Light is nothing but energy. We'll have to understand it is carrying energy, and it is carrying information. It is carrying some, kind of energy which can be transferable. We've already studied the conservation of energy. So where energy cannot be created nor be destroyed, but it will be transferred from one form to another. So here it interacts with matter. Whenever an atom or any atmospheric gas, or you take, let's say atmosphere itself, you have lots of gases, or elements, which are present in the atmosphere. Upon application of light, they get excited. They move from their ground state to the excited state. Correct? Yeah, so we have already seen what is ground state, what is excited state. When we have discussed electronic configuration, I've told you that, if we had a, form, electronic configuration of 4s2 3d9, you can actually write it as 4s1 3d10. Now what is that? You are actually, changing the values, right? For the hybridization thing. So you are basically getting it in the form of ground state and excited state, right? So that is nothing but, that's what we are talking about, the interaction with matter. Light will definitely interact with matter exchange, energy. That's how, the endotherm, you have exothermic and endothermic reactions coming into picture. And then you have light carries energy, as I've told you, in the form of photons. Is there any doubt in this particular slide? So as I'll again repeat the slide to you, light is basically a form of energy. It travels faster with a speed of 3 to 10 power 8 meter per second. It travels in straight lines. It is multicolored. It carries energy in the form of photons. It interacts with matter. It has varied intensity, because it can, have so much of different varied frequencies as well. It has dual nature. Because, it basically acts with waveform as well as particulate form. When you talk about the, range of visible light, it is 400 to 700 nanometers. We've already studied this earlier. Any doubts in this particular slide? All right. I want everyone to take down this as well. Please take down the entire slide quickly. Yeah, varied intensity is nothing but, it. So we spoke about the intensity. Let's say, I'll give you an example. So it's like, you take a torch light, and you place fingers on the screen of the torch light, and you just, create some space between your fingers, so that, you can actually see, light passing through the, through those spaces that are created. Now if you remove the fingers from the screen of the, torch, what happens? The intensity will be huge. You can see a lot of light, a lot of area getting exposed to this light. Now what is that called? That is nothing but the intensity, right? Let me know once you're done, copying down this slide. Particle form, photons. Nihal, photons. We studied about photons. You understood? Okay, fine. Quickly take down the particular slide. Photons are nothing but the particle forms of light. So basically, they are the energy sources. Like, let's say for example, if you take a molecule, molecules are made up of what? Molecules are made up of atoms. Now similarly, when you go to the light as an energy, so light is in the form of smaller photon particles. Now these photon particles actually carries energy. Now what is that kind of energy? That is nothing but light. So light travels in the form of photons. Understood, Indu? Yes, exactly. Correct, Vishnu. So best example is, you can take molecules and atoms. Group of atoms form molecules, right? So group of photons will actually give you a bandwidth of light, basically. You will understand this again when I explain you the scattering, or when I explain you the Tyndall effect. When we actually go through the Tyndall effect, you will actually get this. Don't worry. Is this slide done? Should I move on? All right. Anybody still writing? All right. Let's move on to the next slide. Specific properties of light. I will try understanding specific properties of light. Now, instead of calling them as specific properties, why we call it as specific properties is because light uh, exhibits most of them, and specifically only light exhibits these kind of things, and you won't see other types of energy exhibiting the same thing. So that's the reason why I've kept it as specific properties of light. So the first one would be reflection. Everybody knows reflection, right? You look into your mirror, and you see yourself. That is nothing but reflection, right? Any which ways, we are going to discuss all of these specific properties only today in this class. We'll see all these specific properties of light in today's class. Second one is refraction. Everybody should be knowing refraction. So even if you are not knowing what is reflection and refraction, nobody's going to kill you. Don't take too much of tension in your head. It's okay, no problem. You will learn in this class. So reflection, refraction are specific properties of light. Not only these, we have certain other specific properties of light as well. Can someone name few of them, or should I give you directly? Let's see. Probably you can name few of them. Is someone typing? Should I proceed? It's okay. Let me tell you all those things. No problem. You already know the specific properties of light. Only thing is, you're not able to recollect probably. So reflection, refraction is what we have already studied, right? Virtual and real image is a different thing. It's not a property. But again, yeah. So have you heard of this concept called as dispersion? Dispersion of light? Yes. Yeah. So dispersion is again a specific property of light. Then we have diffraction or diffraction, right? So some call it as diffraction, or some call it as diffraction. Until unless you are not forgetting the spelling. It's fine. Diffraction or diffraction is one of the specific property of light. We also have interference. We'll see all of these properties one by one, don't worry. Then we have scattering of light. Then we have total internal reflection. And finally, we have polarization. So today in this class, I'm going to discuss all of these in detail. So we'll see what is reflection, refraction, dispersion, diffraction, interference, scattering, total internal reflection, polarization. Now, can someone tell me how many of you know at least 5 of these specific properties? How many of you actually know what the 5 of these specific properties we see? 5? Okay, let's say 4. At least 4 of these specific properties. 4. Okay, how many of you know at least 3? You should be definitely knowing 2, because reflection, refraction, you are studying it from the class 7, I believe. So I think you should be knowing what is scattering as well, because I remember giving you some assignments in when we have actually discussed electromagnetism. I mean, we have discussed spectrum. So in that we have already discussed scattering, right? All right, no issues. Those who already know more than 4, that's good. Your target should be by the end of the class, you should be understanding all the 9. How many? These are 9, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 8, right? So I'll make sure that everybody understands all these 8 specific properties of light today. All right. What you do is you quickly write down these specific properties of light. The same way whatever you are seeing on the screen, I want you all to write the same thing in your notes as well, because running notes will help you, and that will reflect as a revision notes as well. In which way we will have work logs, but work logs are completely Q&As. So it is better that you take the running notes as well. I believe most of you do the same thing. Quickly, guys. Is it done? Okay, great. All right, I'm moving on. So let us understand the first specific property of light. So first specific property of light is nothing but a reflection. Now we all know what is reflection. We'll try understanding in the technical terms, or the definition pattern. So reflection is the change in direction of a wave front at an interface between 2 different media, so that the wave front returns into the medium from which it originated. Forget about the definition. It is completely in some kind of theory. Don't worry. We'll study this in a clear and understandable format. Now let's say I'll just draw you for this. There is a wall here, okay? And I mean, how many of you play cricket here? Everybody plays cricket, or everybody should be knowing about cricket, right? Yeah. So now let's say there's a person standing over here, and there's another person standing over here. When you actually practice catches, let's say both of them are actually practicing catches. Okay. So what they have done is they have actually, they started throwing ball in this pattern. He's throwing it here, so that the ball is actually going towards him, right? Everybody understands this? Now, if let's say I call him as A and I call him as B. Okay. Now, if the person B wants to shoot the ball towards A, he should follow the same pattern, correct? Right. Now here you should understand the objects which are kept here, or the phenomena that is happening here, this entire thing is called as one medium, because there is no other medium that is present. So what is the medium that is present here? It is nothing but air, because inside the room there is complete air. Now that is nothing but a medium, right? Right. Now this is called as a plane, because that is actually separating this room with this room. Let's say we have complete water here. We have air inside this. Right now, this is acting like a bridge or a plane, basically. Okay, separator. Now we have air and we have water, but we are actually falling in the same room. Both the objects are kept in the same room. A and B, both of them are in the same room. So what is reflection here? Reflection is nothing but what? Returning everything as it is without any loss of energy. Am I correct? If A is throwing a ball towards B, when B receives the ball, he receives it completely, or is there any loss of energy? There is no loss of energy, right? Now what is reflection? Reflection is nothing but what? Reflecting light back into the medium, or sending back the light back into the medium. When an incident ray falls on the surface of the medium, it reflects back, it goes back into the same medium. Now this phenomena is nothing but reflection. Everybody understood? Yes. Let me remove this. Now we'll go and study the definition again. We'll try understanding the definition again. You will understand now. Reflection is the change in direction of a wave. Now A was throwing ball towards B. Was there any change in direction? Yes, definitely. There was a change in direction, right? Because he was throwing it straight. Once the ball strikes the ball, it has started to change its direction backward, but in a different route, right? It is actually going towards B. Now there is a change in direction. Now naturally, we are talking about light, so yes, we are talking about a wave front, right? A wave front at an interface. Now what is the interface? The ball, right, between the two different media, so that the wave front returns into the medium from which it originated. Both A and B were in the same plane, so we are not talking about two different media here. The example just now we have seen, but in general, if there are two different media, air and water, basically if the light strikes the plane, if it comes back again into the same medium, right, that is nothing but reflection. Now for a better understanding, we'll try understanding this with an example as well. Okay, so reflection of light occurs when the waves encounter a surface or other boundary that does not absorb the energy of the radiation and bounces the waves away from the surface. Everybody understood this? The wall is not absorbing any energy, right? Wall is acting like a plane. It is not at all absorbing any energy. It is actually sending back the ball as it is. It is not changing the shape of the ball or changing the size of the ball. It is sending the ball as it is towards B. Yes. Okay. Now let us understand this thing. So look at the figure that is given in this particular slide. You can see reflection from the surface of water. So you have smooth water surface, you have wavy water surface. Can you see a perfect image in the smooth water surface? Can you all see the same image, the mountain image? But you can see a shaky or kind of not clear or blurred image of the mountain in the second figure, right? Yes. Now based upon the reflecting surface. Now which surface we are talking about? We are talking about the reflecting surface. Okay, now basing upon the reflecting surface, reflection is of two types. First type is a specular reflection. It is called as specular reflection, and the other one is a diffused reflection. Okay, so you might have studied regular and irregular reflection in the previous chapters. It is one and the same thing, but again you start calling this as specular and diffused. Okay, so now basing upon the reflecting surface, reflection is of how many types? Two types. What are they? Specular reflection, diffuse reflection, right? Now, can you tell me which one, out of the figure, the first one or the second one, which one is a specular reflection? First one, naturally, right? Because the surface is smoother. It does not have any waves, to create a disturbance. But if you consider the second image, you can see a wavy form of reflecting surface. So the reflecting surface is not smoother. It is having a harder surface or a disturbed surface. Now, because of this disturbed reflecting surface, you cannot see the image as it is. Now, this is nothing but diffused reflection. So you can see specular reflection and diffuse reflection here in this figure. Clearly, you can see a very smooth surface reflecting the incident ray as it is towards the, another point from A to B. The incident ray is going as it is, in a verified or in a specified path. Whereas diffuse reflection is actually producing diffused form of reflection. You can see the hard surface. You can see there is no smooth or there is no even surface that is present in the second figure, right? So that is diffuse reflection. Now, basing upon the reflecting surface, we have two types of reflection. One is specular reflection and the other one is diffuse reflection. To give you a clear understanding, specular reflection is defined as light reflected from a smooth surface at a definite angle. It has got a specified angle. Now, all the light particles, if you take any section, if you take any longitudinal ray, it will follow the same pattern of angles, right? Now, that is because of the reflecting surface. Now, when you talk about diffuse surface, it is produced by rough surfaces that tend to reflect light in all directions. You can see there is no specified or definite angle in the diffuse reflection. Any doubts in this particular slide? So we should be understanding what is reflection first. Then we should be understanding what is happening to the incident ray. Everybody knows what is incident ray, right? Everybody knows what is incident ray. Yes. Yeah. So now what is happening to the incident ray after it is striking the plane, right? Yeah. So now you should be understanding, basing upon the reflecting surface, what are the two different types, specular reflection and diffuse reflection. What is the definition? You should be understanding. So if you've understood, if you don't have any problem or if you don't have any questions, you can straight away go ahead and take down the entire slide. If I were you, I would have even drawn that kind of smooth surface or a wavy watery surface according to my understanding. So you can actually take down the notes in your form. So but do it quickly, guys. Okay, done. I think Tushant is done. I think people are still writing, I believe, right? Done. Okay. Vishnu is writing, I believe. Write down. Whoever is writing, write quickly. Done. Is it done? Okay, right down. Okay, okay, right. No problem. Write down. Which definition you want, Sharat? Which definition? You want a definition for reflection? You write the same thing, it is self-understood. The returning back of incident rays back into the medium when passed from one medium to the other. Now this phenomena is called as reflection. Is it done? Vaishnavan, Nihal, Vishnu, done? Okay, let me proceed into the next slide. Okay, now let's talk about refraction. So when electromagnetic radiation in the form of visible light travels from one substance or a medium into another, the light waves may undergo a phenomenon known as refraction, which is manifested by a bending or change in direction of the light. Now forget about the definition. Now let's understand this in the form of a diagram. Now look at this diagram. But before that, forget about this. This will again, discuss once we, see the, ray diagram. Now let us understand. There are two different mediums. Okay. Now there is a differentiating factor between each medium that is represented with a red color line. So that is the reason why I've, given it as normal. And everybody should be knowing what is a normal, right? Yeah. So now there are two different medium here. Okay. So M1 and M2. M1 and M2 are two different medium. When light is passed from one medium into the another medium. Now forget about denser or rarer. We'll again talk about denser medium and rarer medium again. Now just understand the concept here. Now you can see a light ray that is passing from M1 towards M2. Correct? Yes. Now this is nothing but incident ray. Now this ray of light that is being passed is called as incident ray. Now the angle that it makes with the normal is called as angle of incidence, represented by small I. Now what happens to this? It should ideally travel straight, because we have studied that light travels in straight lines, so it should actually follow this path. You can actually see the dotted lines in M2. You can see dotted lines in second medium. It should actually travel in that particular sequence, or in that particular path, according to the statement that we have studied, that light travels in the form of straight line. But what is happening here? Instead of traveling straight, if at all, if it is coming back into the same medium, now this is nothing but what? Reflection, right? We have just seen reflection. Now this ray is nothing but the reflected ray, right? Instead of passing directly into the other medium, if it is coming back, then that is nothing but reflection, and the ray is called as reflected ray. We have just seen example of A and B playing catches, right? A was transferring ball to B, B was transferring ball to A. They were practicing catches. Now this is nothing but reflection. Now the ray that is reflected is called as a reflected ray. Now the angle that is made by the reflected ray with the normal is called as angle of reflection. Understood? But we are talking about refraction here. Now if ball, the incident ray is not even going straight, is not even getting reflected, but it is slightly having this bent in its direction. You can see a blue color line. in the medium to, so this bending up of light ray when it is passing from one medium to the other medium, okay, this particular phenomena is called as refraction. It is passing, it is getting penetrated into the second medium, but it is not following a straighter path, it is actually bent. Now this light bent is called as refraction. Now this ray is called as refracted ray, and the angle that it makes with the normal is nothing but angle of refraction. Okay, everybody understood this? Any doubts? No, right? Fine. Now let us get back to the definition. We'll try understanding the definition now after understanding the diagram, ray diagram. So when electromagnetic radiation, which electromagnetic radiation we are talking about? We are talking about light, right? So naturally it is in the form of visible light, travels from one substance or medium into another. Yes, it is traveling from one medium to another. That's why we have M1 and M2, medium 1 and medium 2. The light waves may undergo a phenomena called as refraction. Yes, that is clearly represented in the form of a blue color line, which is manifested by a bending or change in the direction of light. Is the direction of light is getting changed? Yes, it is definitely getting changed when you are talking about the blue color line. Now, if there is a change in the direction in the other medium after penetrating into this other medium, then that is nothing but refraction. If at all there is a change in direction in the same medium, within the same medium, then that is called as reflection. Correct? If the direction of if there is a change in direction within the same medium, it is called as reflection. If there is a change in direction of light in the other medium, then that is called as refraction. You understood what is the major difference between reflection and refraction? Good, very good. Yes. So you should by the figure itself you would have understood what is angle of incidence, angle of reflection, angle of refraction, right? So refraction occurs as light passes from one medium to another only when there is a difference in the index of refraction. Now what is this index of refraction? We basically call this as refractive index. Now refractive index, whenever we have I think we have already discussed this, it is represented by mu. Now why this refractive index comes into picture? If there are two different medium, okay, if we have water and air, then naturally air and water is having density difference, right? One is denser and the one is rarer. Now let's say for example air and oil, oil is naturally denser, right? So because of the densities we classify them as denser medium and a rarer medium, correct? Yeah. Now whenever there is a difference in the densities, or whenever there is a difference in the medium, we talk about refractive index. Now what is refractive index? All these things we have already studied, but again we'll study this in Snell's law. I think everybody should be knowing sine of angle of incidence by sine of angle of refraction is equals to mu, right? Yeah, mu is equals to sine I by sine r. We've already studied this. Yeah, so that is what he has mentioned here. Refraction only occurs when there is a change in refractive index. Now if there is no change in refractive index, now let's say refractive index is 0, can you actually see refraction? No, because it is the same medium again. If I say if I take this medium as air and if I still take this medium as air, is there any difference in the medium? No, there is no difference in the medium. So can you actually see refraction? No. So that is important here. So refraction will only exist when there is a change in refractive index. All right. You can actually see this picture. I think most of you have you might have done this in your house itself. You might have observed this in your house itself. Whenever you put a straw or any spoon into a glass full of water, you can actually see that the spoon is bent or the straw is bent. inside water. It is not actually the same thing, right? It is nothing but this is nothing but refraction. Okay. And second example, let me give you. This one is quite common. Whenever you are, staring at fishes inside the aquarium, you see them moving, and when you try to catch it, or hold it, basically, uh, you know, you get deceived by their movement, right? Now that is because of refraction. Any doubts in this particular slide, guys? Everybody understood what is refraction? Great. Please take down the entire slide quickly, quickly. I have so many properties to discuss. Please take down quickly. So when I say quickly, you should not be skipping it. You should be writing it. Aditya, you are able to understand? Not Aditya Dubey. I'm asking other Aditya. Aditya, you are able to understand? Okay. Fine, no problem. Okay, is it done? Great. Anybody still writing? Should I proceed into the next slide? Write down, write down. Okay, fine. Right. So we'll move on to the next slide. Vishnu, done? Okay, write down fast. Quickly, quickly. Okay, fine. Moving on. So we will move on to dispersion. So we have understood what is reflection, what is refraction. We are going to see what is dispersion now. The splitting up of white light into its 7 constituent colors on passing through a transparent medium like a glass prism is called as dispersion of light. We've already studied this, we already know this, but the important thing here is you should be able to write the definition as it is, or you should be actually framing out sensible uh, paragraph when you're writing the definition of dispersion or any other specific property of light. So that's when you call yourself as you already know the answer or not. All right, so let us see the diagram and then we'll easily understand what is dispersion. You all can see a prism here. Now this prism, onto this prism you are passing white light. When you are passing white light onto this prism, what is happening? Now this prism is actually dispersing light into different colors basing upon the wavelengths, right? Because there is a difference in the wavelengths, we are getting light getting split into different, you know, different parts, basing upon the specific wavelengths, right? We have Vibgyor here. Everybody should be knowing what is Vibgyor. This phenomena of splitting up of light into 7 constituent colors on passing through a transparent medium like glass prism is called as dispersion of light. Please take down. Yeah, please take down. Okay. I would suggest you to draw a small prism diagram and then pass one ray of light and then split it into 7 different colors, giving it a name as Vibgyor. Probably that would be beneficial for you. When you're writing Vibgyor, you write it from the bottom. You write Vibgyor from the bottom so that you get red on top. V is the first one and R is the last one. All right, done. Okay. Okay, I'm moving on to the next slide. Now let us understand what is diffraction. Observe this figure carefully. What you will understand something. Now here in this figure, white light source is actually passing light through a slit. Everybody knows a slit, right? Slit is nothing but a hole. Through this slit, white light is being passed. When it is being passed, it is following a particular pattern of beam, and then it is again being sent through a diffracting or diffraction grating. Now when this is passed, it is again getting split into different colors. Now what is the major difference between diffraction and dispersion? Yes, there is a difference. When you actually go through the definition, you will understand. Diffraction is the spreading out of waves as they pass through an aperture or around objects. The main key thing here is the white light should pass through an aperture. Only then, or any hole, basically, if the white light is passing through that, the phenomena that we observe is diffraction. It occurs significantly when the size of the aperture or obstacle is of similar linear dimension to the wavelength of the incident wave. It happens when a part of the traveling wave front is obscured. Now let us understand this with the help of a diagram. You can actually see white light is being passed through a hole. Before in the dispersion case, we haven't seen any aperture or any slit or any hole through which white light was passing. We have just seen a prism. Through the prism, if you're passing white light, it was getting split into different colors. But here, the change is the white light is being passed through a slit, right? That is very important here. Now, basing upon the waves or the pattern of light that is seen, diffraction can be classified into two. What are they? Fresnel diffraction, and the other one is Fraunhofer's diffraction. Now, what is Fresnel diffraction and Fraunhofer's diffraction? You will study this in the intermediate first year. But yes, for now, you will have to understand that there are two types of diffractions. One is Fresnel and Fraunhofer. Basing upon the type of waves, whether it is round or whether it is linear. Basing upon that, there is a classification called as Fresnel diffraction and Fraunhofer diffraction. You should be understanding this by the by looking at the diagram itself. Is it clear? Take down the definition and the classification as well. Guys, I didn't give you your marks, right? I'll have to give you, right after the class. You remind me, I'll give you the marks and all the papers are corrected. I'll not share you the papers, but I'll give you the marks. Tushant, that is not required. Just concentrate on whatever has been told, because that language wise you will study that in the intermediate first year. You should be knowing whatever is required for now. This is done. Okay, write down. Okay. Mr. One, are you still writing? Okay. Fine. I'm moving on. Now let us understand a concept called as interference. Now, in general, forget about the definition. What is interference, guys? You usually use this term called as interfere whenever an argument is going on between two individuals. When you go in between, they will say you that please do not interfere, mind your own business. Have you ever heard of such kind of terminologies? You have heard, right? Yeah. What is that basically? Interference. Please don't interfere. Matlab, unwanted entry. Now, what happens if unwanted entry happens? What happens? The argument might increase its intensity, or probably it might stop at all. I mean, it might get stopped, right? So it might increase or it might stop, right? Because of any interference, or if a third person interfere when two people are actually in an argument, what might happen? There are two probabilities. One, the argument might increase its intensity. Second one, the argument might completely stop. Right? Keep this in mind. Now let us understand what is interference. Interference is a phenomena of superimposition of two or more waves having same frequency emitted by coherent sources. Now what is this coherent sources, guys? So basically coherent sources, when you actually call two sources as coherent, when the waves emitted from the these particular sources, when the two sources emit waves having same frequency and constant phase difference. See, you should understand one thing here. You can call sources as coherent when the waves that are being exhibited by the source should be should have same frequency. They should have same frequency, and there should also be constant phase difference. All right. Now, what is phase difference, guys? Phase difference का मतलब the angle, basically difference in degrees or radians is nothing but phase difference. Okay, I'll show you the diagram. You'll clearly understand. So, when can you call a source as coherent source? You can call a source as coherent when the waves that are emitted from it should have, I mean, when the waves have same frequency and constant phase difference, then you can call such type of sources as coherent sources. Now, coming back to the definition, phenomena of superimposition of two or more waves having same frequency. See, one factor is satisfied here, because I told you they should have same frequency emitted by coherent sources. Naturally, if the waves are coming out of coherent sources, इसका मतलब है कि the frequency will definitely be same, such that the amplitude of resultant wave is equal to the sum of amplitude of individual waves. Now, this thing is quite common that you have already and you have kept studying the same thing again and again from years, right? Whenever you talk about any energy, or whenever you study about any wave or a light or any particular radiation or energy, you'll study this concept, of course with a different terminologies, but again the concept will be same. The resultant wave will be equal to sum of individual waves. Correct? Yes. Correct. Yeah. So let us understand interference, using a diagram here. You can see a picture where you have incoherent and you have coherent. Now, what is the difference between incoherent and coherent? Coherent waves are having same frequency. They have a same angle as well. If the angle is same, what did I tell you? That is nothing but phase difference. So phase difference is same, frequency is same. So the waves that are being emitted from the source, you can call that source as coherent source. Correct? What are the two conditions to be a coherent source? First, it should have same frequency. It should have constant phase difference. When the waves have same frequency and constant phase difference, you can call that source as coherent source. Now you can clearly see in this particular diagram or picture, you can see incoherent and coherent. If you compare incoherent with the coherent, there is not at all same frequency in the incoherent waves. You can see lots of disturbances and all, but in coherent waves, you'll not see any change in what do you say, the frequency, or you can actually see the constant maintenance of the phase difference as well. I hope everybody should be understanding what is incoherent and coherent difference with this particular picture. Now we'll try understanding what is interference here by using another picture. You can actually see a picture where light is being passed through a slit. Whenever probably I think you haven't studied this. Now this is something called as double slit experiment. It's a very important long answer type question in your intermediate. But again, yeah, it is already there in your 10th and 9th standard itself, provided your teacher explains, or provided if you have interest in studying this. Is nothing but interference. Now you can see two different holes. So there is the first wave coming out from point A towards the second screen. Second screen has two slits. First slit is termed as S1 and the second slit is termed as S2. Now out of these slits, again the waves are being passed. When these waves are hitting a film, they are producing brighter and darker patterns. Now how are these brighter and darker patterns are observed? Basing upon the intensity of the waves. Now you can see between the waves, you can see the waves are getting superimposed. Superimposed का मतलब क्या होता है कि so waves, one wave touching another. It's like you all understand what is superimposing, right? Yeah, so one wave is actually touching the other wave. Yeah, so you can actually see this in the picture. So when the waves which are coming out from the source one, you can see here, can you see any interference? No, right? You don't see any superimposition. But when we are talking about these waves, one wave is getting superimposed by another wave. Now this point is nothing but Point of superimposition. Are you able to understand? Correct. Now, basing upon the superimposition, basing upon the coincidence of these waves, or the two waves interfere and they produce different bands on the screen. That is mentioned as bright, dark, bright, dark. You can see the regular pattern of bright and dark light that is being passed onto the film. Now, why is this happening? Because of the intensity of light. Now, how this intensity of light is getting differed by this phenomena called as interference. Now, basing upon the intensity, interference is also classified into two types. Okay. Now, before going into the classification of interference, first you should understand S1, S2. You can actually see here. You can see a different diagram where S1 is the first screen, S2 is the second screen. Now, in S2 you have B and C as two slits. Now you can clearly see what is happening there. You can clearly see the interference pattern. You can see the mixing up of waves. Now that is nothing but interference. Correct? Now what did I tell you? Before we had an example, two people are arguing with each other. You enter as a third person. The argument might increase its intensity or it might completely shut down. Right? Now can you observe dark and bright patterns on the film? There are only two outcomes, right? Dark and bright. So that is what I was actually I was actually quoting out when I was giving the example. Now, basing upon the interference, you can actually classify interference into two types basically. What are they? Constructive interference, destructive interference. All right, constructive interference and destructive interference. Again, this you will study in your intermediate. But again, constructive interference occurs when the wave amplitudes reinforce each other. What is reinforcing? Strengthening. Strengthening is nothing but reinforcing. So constructive interference occurs when the wave amplitudes strengthen each other, building a wave of even greater amplitude. Destructive interference occurs when the wave amplitudes opposes each other, resulting in waves of reduced amplitude. Self understood? I mean, it is destructive interference is seen in earphones. Yes, correct, Nihal. Yeah. All right, understood what is constructive and what is destructive. There is increased amplitude in constructive interference. There is decreased amplitude in destructive interference. The name itself, is self-explanatory, and you will study regarding this very clearly in your physics intermediate. So this is something called as interference mechanism. Interference mechanism is another specific property of light where there is superimposition of waves is taking place. Because of the superimposition, basing upon the waves, the interference can be classified into two types: constructive as well as destructive. Correct. Speakers is constructive. Correct. Good. Quickly take down the slide. I hope the entire slide is understood. I mean, if you have doubts, please ask me, or if you don't have any doubts, please go ahead and take down the notes. These are very important terminologies. These are very important process or phenomena, because basing upon these things, we are going to start our advanced level of light chapter. If you want to understand that particular entire light chapter that we are going to discuss in the section or session 3, 4, 5, you should be knowing all these things. Again and again, we cannot come back and revise what is interference, what is diffraction, or what is dispersion, right? You should be knowing the difference. So that is the reason why we are spending the entire thing on basics. Now these basics are very important for you to understand the advanced level of any chapter. You take any chapter, basics are very important. Okay, what is meant by incoherent? Okay, see, Aditya, incoherent is nothing but a source of light which is exhibiting waves of light waves which are having different frequencies, which are not having constant phase difference. You can see this, uneven pattern. See, you can actually see this uneven pattern in incoherent, right? The waves which are being sent by this light, this is nothing but the source, right? Now this is sending out, waves. Now these waves are not having same frequency, they are not having the constant phase difference. But if you compare these waves with these waves, what is happening here? These waves have got same frequency, these waves are maintaining the constant phase difference, whereas these waves, they do not have same frequency, they do not maintain same or constant phase difference. So sources which emit waves which have different frequencies and which do not maintain constant phase difference are known as incoherent sources. Understood? Yes, Sharath, yes. Quickly take down the entire slide. Let me know once you're done. Okay. All right, let me proceed into the next slide. Next, okay, fine. Vishnu is writing, fine. Yeah, if you want, you can actually take it. All right, moving on. Scattering of light. Scattering of light is the phenomena in which light rays get deviated from its straight path on striking an obstacle like dust or gas molecules, water vapors, etc. Now, do not get confused between diffraction, dispersion, scattering. Everything is specific, and that's why we call them individually. Now we'll discuss this in a very clear path. Now let us forget this. Basically, scattering of light gives rise to many spectacular phenomena such as Tyndall effect and the red hues of sunrise and sunset. Now that's why most of the people, they when they visit different places, they like visiting places like Konark, wherever they can actually see sunset and sunrise. I believe you would have been there sometime, or Konark temple, you have been there. I mean, wherever you can actually see a very beautiful scenery like a sunset or a sunrise. What happens basically there? You can see a very beautiful picture, or the very beautiful scenery you can actually see there. Now that is nothing but because of scattering of light. Now what is the scattering of light? We'll clearly understand this using a particular picture. Now observe this picture carefully. Now before this person dropping a substance, or if he's if he's not adding anything into the glass, what is happening to the light? Light was actually straight. You cannot see any change in its path. But when the person is adding something into the glass and he's mixing up, there is some interference, and because of this you can see there is a change of the light which is falling onto the film, right? You can clearly see the particles of light on the screen. I'll tell you a very simple example. How many of you been to a village, and how many of you been to a or how many of you were there in a situation where your grandmom, or probably your parents, or when they cook, using the old kind of tools or techniques, like there is a lot of smoke, and suddenly if a light is being passed, you can actually see a thin film of light rays, inside which you will see particles rounding, right? Of particles revolving. You can actually see the particles. How many of you observed this? When there is smoke, or when if there is a small complete darkness, if the entire room is dark, and if there is a single opening, and through that if light is falling onto or into the room, what is happening there? You can see the entire band of straight light entering into the room with particles in it. You can actually see the particles in it. What is this effect called as? This effect is called as Tyndall effect. Everybody is able to imagine whatever I'm telling you, or what is it like? Yes, right? Yeah. So that is nothing but Tyndall effect. What is the main process behind it? The main process behind it is scattering of light. So here also this person is adding something into it. He is creating a disturbance, is creating a dust-like atmosphere. Because of this, you can see the screen here. You can actually see this screen. There is a change, in the picture that is being observed on the screen. Right? Yes. The size of the light is getting enlarged. Now you can actually see the enlargement with a clear understanding of particles inside it. Now scattering will give you a clear understanding about particle nature of light, right? Okay. So what happens basically is sunlight, when falls onto the atmosphere contains gases. Now these gases are in the form of particles, and because sunlight is getting touched, or we have studied one point under light. We have seen that there is an interaction of light with the matter, right? Did we study interacts with the matter? Now this is an example, best example for that. Sunlight falling onto the atmosphere, atmospheric particles are there, they are scattering the sunlight in a wider range. Now why is this happening? Because they absorb, they take the data, they take the information from the light, they absorb the energy. What they matlab kya? Atmospheric particles are absorbing energy from the sunlight. Now what is there in the sunlight? Sunlight contains photons, basically particles, right? Particles of light. Now these particles of light are being absorbed. Now similarly, if you talk about any plant, if you talk about your body, plants basically entrap sunlight in the form of photons, and they store it in their chlorophyll. You all studied this? All of you studied this, right? Yes. All right. Let me know once you're done. Done? Okay. Everybody understood what is Tyndall effect, what is scattering of light? Okay. Write down, Indo, no problem. Tomorrow's class will not be this slow. I'll increase the pace day by day. You'll have to, adjust and adjust the pace as well, because we have so many ray diagrams. We have so many concepts in light chapter. Specifically, we'll be focusing on refraction. We'll see the lens as well as the plane surfaces both. For that, you should be knowing all these basic concepts. Indu, is it done? Done? Okay. Let me move on to the next slide. Total internal reflection. Now we all know what is reflection. You should also be knowing what is total internal reflection. Complete reflection of a ray of light within a medium such as water or glass from the surrounding surfaces back into the medium. The same example of ball, that is being passed from A to B is actually a good example of total internal reflection. But again, it is different from the normal reflection. Total internal reflection comes under reflection. But here there is one specific thing: the entire energy is restored. There is no definite loss of energy in total internal reflection. We'll try to understand this using a diagram. The phenomena occurs if the angle of incidence is greater than a certain limiting angle. What is that called as? It is nothing but critical angle. Okay, so we'll try understanding this. Critical angle is defined as the angle of incidence that provides an angle of refraction of 90 degrees. Now, if I give you the diagram, you'll clearly understand this. Also, guys, I think I've discussed critical angle last year itself, right? So you can actually see this diagram here on the screen. So here we have two different medium, right? N1 and N2. One is air and one is water. You have theta1, which is nothing but the angle of incidence. You have theta2, that is angle of refraction, right? In the second figure, you can actually see the critical angle. What is happening? The angle of incidence is such that the refracted ray is being passed with an angle of 90 degrees. What is the angle of refraction? If the angle of refraction is 90 degrees, now how can you produce an angle of refraction of 90 degrees? When the angle of incidence is made in such a way that the refracted angle gives you an angle of 90 degrees. Now this angle, this particular angle of incidence is nothing but critical angle. So that is why it is mentioned using theta c. So that is nothing but critical angle. Okay. Now, what is total internal reflection? You can see theta1 is equal to theta2, right? You can actually see theta1 and theta2. That is nothing but total internal reflection. Okay. So complete reflection of the ray of light within a medium such as water or glass from the surrounding surface back into the medium. Can you see any light or any particular energy that is entering into the air medium? No, right? It is completely inside the water itself. So theta 1 and theta 2 is completely inside the water. There's completely no loss of energy. Now this particular phenomena is called as total internal reflection. If the entire light ray is coming back into the same light, if there is no energy loss in the medium, then that is called as total internal reflection. It is slightly different, from that of reflection. Reflection is a generalized phenomena, whereas total internal reflection is a specific phenomena, because here there is no loss of energy, and at the same time it will only exist with a certain limiting angle that is called as critical angle. So if the angle is greater than the critical angle, there you can see total internal reflection. There is no terminology called as total internal refraction, so don't use that. It is total internal reflection. So after this we have one more topic, that is polarization. After that I'll wind up. So try understanding everything clearly. If you have any doubts, don't hesitate, ask me right now itself. I think you all understood what is total internal reflection. Any doubts? Okay, now take down the diagram as well, that is very important. Let me know once you're done. Everyone's done? ठीक है, write down. Vishnu, done? Quickly. There's one more last topic that is pending for today, that is polarization. I hope whatever we have studied till now is understood, and I hope everybody is clear with the topics. If at all, if you still have any problem or any question that is left out unanswered, you should right now ask me, because if you are asking me right now, you will get it sorted. If you keep it inside and if you don't ask me, you will again sit back and you'll slowly feel like you don't know the things. So never hesitate asking questions. It's very important. If it is understood, then that is fine, but if you don't understand certain things, probably you can get back to me. All right, Vishnu, done? All right, fine. Let's move on to the next topic, that is the last topic for today. But before going on, there's one more sentence here: complete reflection of light back into the medium. So self-understood, right? The total reflection is complete reflection of light back into the medium. All right. Last one is polarization. A light wave that is vibrating in more than one plane is referred to as unpolarized light. If it is vibrating in more than one plane, I told you that there is one plane, there is other plane as well. In the beginning class, beginning of the class itself, we've discussed what is a plane and all, right? So if a light wave is vibrating in more than one plane, the term vibrating is actually meaning here as traveling. Basically, if a light wave is that is moving or traveling in more than one plane, then it is referred to as unpolarized light. What do we call that light? We call it as unpolarized light. It is possible to transform unpolarized light into polarized light. We can change this unpolarized light into polarized light. How many of you remember we have studied optical isomerism in carbon chemistry? You all remember? Optical isomers, geometrical isomers. Now under optical isomers, we have studied plane polarized light. Yes? Dextro, levo, you all remember? Dextro rotatory, levo rotatory. Yeah, so that is basing upon this polarization phenomena itself. Now here, coming back to light topic, it is possible to transform this unpolarized light into polarized light. We'll see how. Polarized light waves are light waves in which the vibrations occur in a single plane. So in polarized light, how many planes are involved? Only a single plane is involved. In unpolarized light, how many planes are involved? More than one, right? So the process of transforming unpolarized light into polarized light is known as polarization. Now observe this particular figure. You will clearly understand what I'm talking about from that time. So you can see a light source in the form of a light beam. You can see unpolarized light. You can see so many three-dimensional, movement of light before the polarizer. Now this unpolarized light, when this unpolarized light was passed through a polarizer, what happened? This polarizer has modified or transformed the unpolarized light which was passing in more than one plane into a light which is passing in one plane, one single plane. This entire thing is passing in a single plane. Now this is nothing but polarized light because it is passing in a single plane, whereas in unpolarized light we can see more than one plane. You can see a yellow color shaded region, and you can also see another plane that is sky blue color shaded region, whereas you can only see one specific color, that is yellow shaded region, in the polarized light. That itself is quoting a single plane. Everybody understood what is polarization? Polarization is a simple topic. If a light ray is or let's say if a light wave is moving in more than one plane, if it is vibrating in more than one plane, then that is called as unpolarized light. If it is moving in a single single plane, then that is called as polarized light. Now how can you change polarized light to polarized unpolarized light to polarized light? Now that is, there are different techniques as well. Now we'll not go that much deep into how exactly you will convert unpolarized into polarized. Now the process of converting unpolarized light into polarized light is called as polarization. Okay, so when you're asked to write a 2-mark answer or a very short answer on what is polarization, you can actually write in this way: the process of transforming unpolarized light into polarized light is known as polarization. Okay, so then you can actually begin from the beginning. So write the last point as the first point when you're writing the answer, and then you can follow the pattern. Is it understood? Everybody understood this concept? Okay, fine. Take down the diagram and take down the the entire thing. Unpolarized and polarized. We have one more slide. We'll quickly finish off that. We'll study about mediums, denser and rarer medium. So with this slide, I have finished all the specific properties of light. First, we have started with reflection. Then we have seen refraction. Then we have seen dispersion. Then we have seen diffraction. Then we have seen total internal reflection. Then we have seen scattering. Then we have seen something I missed out. What did I miss out? We've seen polarization as well. Interference, yes. Interference also we have seen. So 8 topics are covered, right? You should be knowing all these 8 differences, the similarities, the definitions, everything that you should be knowing. All right. If this is done, I'll move on to the last slide. One more slide is pending. Write down, write down. Done? Okay. Nihal, done? Okay, fine. Last slide. We'll move on. We'll talk about mediums here. So far we have studied the properties of light, general properties of light, specific properties of light, and now we should be focusing on the main terms here. Because these are something where you will frequently talk now. You talk about denser medium and you talk about rarer medium. Now most of them they get confused with this. A medium in which speed of light is more is known as optically rarer medium, and a medium in which speed of light is less is said to be optically denser medium. For example, in air and water, air is nothing but a rarer medium, water is nothing but a denser medium. Everybody understands this? It is completely depending upon the density. Okay, so then denser medium and a rarer medium. A medium A is said to be optically denser than medium B if the speed of light in A is less than the speed of light in B. That is, the refractive index of A is greater than the refractive index of B. So the same thing what you have studied in the first two sentences, the same thing we are objectifying to A and B, and then we are actually giving you the sentence. A medium A is said to be optically rarer than the medium B if the speed of light in A is greater than the speed of light in B. That is, the refractive index of A is lesser than the refractive index of B. Now, with this, you should understand one thing. Refractive index is less, then the speed is high, right? Am I correct? Yes, it is inversely proportional. So decreased refractive index will give you increase in speed. Now, if a particular medium is having higher refractive index, that means it is a denser medium. In that denser medium, the speed of light will be lesser because of the particle accumulation inside the medium. You take, for example, let's say let us take water, and we even take sugar syrup. Which one is more denser? Sugar syrup, right? Now if you pass light into water and sugar syrup, naturally the one which is having less density, or the rarer medium one, will have more speed, so the refractive index will be greater. So I'm just giving you an example, but you'll have to take the what standard examples such as air and water. Air is having less density than the water, right? So because it goes down, right? So denser objects, what happens to the denser objects? Will they float or will they sink? They'll sink, right? Yeah. So look at this particular diagram. You can see more dense medium, less dense medium. When light travels from optically denser medium to an optically rarer medium, the light moves away from the normal. Normal is the perpendicular drawn to the surface of the mediums at the point where the light leaves one medium and enters the other medium. We already know this. The dotted line represents the normal. So what is the important thing here? When the light ray is traveling from optically denser medium to a optically rarer medium, the light ray is moving away from the normal. It is going away from the normal. Now, how will you understand this? When you actually compare this with, you will understand this. Now you can observe this. When light rays travels from an optically rarer medium to a optically denser medium, the light rays moves towards the normal. The dotted line is the normal. It's not the straight line, bold line is not the normal. Here, normal is represented as dotted line basically. Okay, so if the light rays are traveling from rarer to denser, then the light rays move towards the normal. If they are traveling from denser to rarer, then they are moving away from the normal. Is this concept understood? This is very important, guys. Denser to rarer, away from the normal. Rarer to denser, towards the normal. Yeah. So with this, we finish today's session. But let us revise quickly. Let us understand whatever we have studied today. We have started with different properties of light. We have studied what is the speed of light, how does it travel, what are the different intensities that it has, how does it have its frequencies and wavelengths in picture. Then we have started studying the specific properties of light. We started with reflection. We've seen the bouncing back of light into the same medium, that is called as reflection. We've seen refraction. There is a change or bend in the direction of light, that is nothing but the refraction. Then we have seen dispersion. We have seen the prism. Through that, if we are passing white light through the prism, we have seen this band of light getting split into different colors based upon the wavelengths, that is nothing but dispersion. Then we have seen diffraction. Diffraction is nothing but the hole or the slit that you have observed. Through that, if it is passed, you're getting different diffraction. We have two types of diffractions. One is Fresnel and Fraunhofer. Then we have seen interference. In interference, we have seen the superimposition of the waves. Because of the superimposition, we have two types again, constructive and destructive. Because of this constructive and destructive interference, we have dark and what do you say, the bright and dark patterns which are observed on the film. And after interference, we have seen scattering of light. Scattering of light, we have specifically seen Tyndall effect. We have seen a moving picture where the particles were visible on the screen because of the disturbance that is created in the atmosphere, right? So that was under scattering. Then we have moved on to total internal reflection. Total reflection, we have seen that diagram. Critical angle we have discussed in total internal reflection. What is critical angle? Critical angle is nothing but when the angle is the angle of incidence is in such a way that the refracted ray is 90 degrees. So the refractive angle of refraction is 90 degrees. Then the angle of incidence is nothing but critical angle. So if an angle of incidence is greater than the critical angle, then it will result in total internal reflection. There is complete restoration of energy. There is no loss of energy at all. The entire light ray will bounce back into the same medium. That's what we have studied in the total internal reflection. And finally, we have discussed about the last thing, that is polarization. We have seen what is unpolarized and polarized light. If a light ray is traveling or vibrating in more than one plane, and that is called as unpolarized light. If a light ray is traveling in only one plane, then that is called as polarized light. The phenomenon of converting unpolarized light into a polarized light is called as polarization. We have seen that using a diagram as well. And then finally, we have studied about denser medium and a rarer medium. Now, this is actually required for us to move further ahead in this chapter. I hope the entire session was clear, so that we can easily progress into the further topic. Any doubts in this today's session?